Welcome back to the Diabetes Digital Podcast. We are so excited to be joined by one of our very own dietitians who really understands diabetes care from both sides as a clinician and as someone living with type 1 diabetes. We have Tiana Lavin, who is a registered dietitian. She's based in San Diego. She's been working in the field of nutrition since 2018, and her work specializes in helping adults find balance between enjoying food and managing their blood sugars. She brings such a unique perspective as someone who has been living with type 1 diabetes. And we're going to be talking more about her diagnosis, lessons that she's learned along the way, and also her approach to nutrition.
Yeah, we're very excited to talk to Tiana because we had an award ceremony with our dietitians for our team trip, and the award that Tiana got was Result Rockstar, and that is partly because she is really good at helping clients lower their A1C, especially clients who have diabetes or type 1 and they feel like they've done everything and there's like nothing that a dietitian could possibly do. Like, she's a dietitian who will still help you get your A1C down. So I think it's really good to talk to her to learn not only like her personal journey with type 1, and she'll share a little bit about her diagnosis story, which, yeah, you guys will hear that. And it's pretty interesting, as well as, yeah, just some of the mental and emotional sides of managing diabetes, navigating the healthcare system, some diabetes tech and insulin insights. She is a wealth of knowledge, and we're so excited to talk to her today.
Welcome to the Diabetes Digital Podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Jess, and we're best friends, registered dietitians, and diabetes educators.
Through our telehealth platform, diabetesdigital.co, we offer accessible and personalized virtual nutrition counseling for people with diabetes and prediabetes.
Visit diabetesdigital.co, that's C-O, to book your first appointment. We accept insurance and offer affordable self-pay options. Now, let's get into today's episode.
So welcome to the podcast, Tiana.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on with you guys. You guys are my not only bosses, but mentors, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for such that beautiful welcome.
Of course. We're so excited to have you. And I think it'll be good for us to start with you giving us a little bit of background about yourself, how you got into diabetes care, where you're from, what is the focus of your work today. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, actually. And everyone thinks that I became a dietitian because I got type 1 diabetes, but actually I was already in school becoming a registered dietitian when I got diagnosed. So naturally, it kind of just like led me to working in diabetes throughout my career because I had so much, personal experience and I could really relate with people. So I've come to just seeing it as like a silver lining, honestly. It does really like help me on a personal level to be talking and engaging in conversations like this all the time. So I feel really fulfilled doing this work. And then also I'm really happy to be sharing everything I've learned along the way. Like, I have a client who is the same age that I was when I was diagnosed. She's 21. And it's just the coolest experience to be able to like have a full circle moment and tell her all the things that I wish someone would have told me at the time. So that's kind of how, like, where I'm from. I went to school in San Diego. I live here now, but that's kind of like what led me to working in diabetes.
Yes. I have a follow-up question about your patients, because I do read all the reviews that come in, and I have seen quite a few patients say like they love working with you just because it feels like they can talk to someone who gets it and just kind of talk shop and talk about different apps and tech. And even just hearing you and Jenny, who is our other dietitian with type 1 diabetes, talk about like bolusing before oatmeal or whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
what have you heard from your patients, like in terms of what it is like working with someone who actually has type 1?
Yeah, I feel like even when they don't have type 1 necessarily, just being someone who lives with diabetes, prediabetes, type 1, whatever it is, you have such a different relationship to the healthcare world. Like, you have all of a sudden medications that you need, prescriptions you need to get through, prior authorizations, like navigating healthcare as someone who, needs to now, and that might be something new in your life, that it's just so intimidating and overwhelming. And just having someone who understands what that feels like and lives that and like has those struggles, there's just a level of like trauma bonding, honestly, but like relatability there. You know what I mean? So it's really been a great experience. Obviously, when it's a type 1, it's like a whole other level of like, oh, like you really get the struggle. Like you're not just like, oh, I see how that could be hard. You're like, yeah, I feel how like hard it is. So the feeling is so mutual. Like I feel so fulfilled working with people who are going through things that I go through and deal with every day. And I feel like they're just relieved. Like they don't have to explain it. Like they just know there's a level, you know, and it's very apparent in our conversations. Like we can almost complete each other's sentences in a way. It's like, yeah. And then that's so frustrating. And then you have to do this thing. And yeah, I totally get it. And I also have like really realistic expectations for people. And they know like that I understand that. So it's just a nice kind of like playing field for us both to be having that perspective and insight.
Another thing I'll add to that too is I listen to, with permission from the patient, we listen to some visits, right? Just to like make sure everything is standardized with our care.
Yeah.
And one thing I have noticed that you will say to people, even if it's somebody with like prediabetes, is helping them come to peace with if it does develop into diabetes, it is okay. Like they're going to be okay. You have diabetes, like you're able to, obviously there's challenges we'll talk about, but you're able to still live your regular life. And it seems like patients really appreciate that and it's less scary to them.
Absolutely. I remember when I was diagnosed with type 1, I didn't know anyone who had type 1. No one in my family had it. My dad ended up getting it, which is a whole other story, after me at the age of 58. But at the time, I didn't know anyone. And I literally hunted down my first friend with diabetes. Like I looked up San Diego type 1 diabetes on Facebook, like found a group, went through the members, messaged someone. Like I really, that connection and like having someone who you can see that's like not only living with it, but like doing well. And like, you know what I mean? Like that was really important to me. I just needed to see one person who like was functional and like happy enough and like thriving enough to make me like see the vision. Like, okay, this isn't going to be like the most catastrophic worst nightmare situation, like worst case scenario. Cause I really had like no idea like what is normal to like be hit with a diagnosis like this. Like how much is this going to throw my life, you know, for a whirl? Like how are other people handling it? And she, to this day, is one of my really good friends. She has 2 beautiful babies. She had healthy pregnancies. Like she's really been a huge part of like my experience that like made me feel so much better. So I think that there is such a level of relief seeing someone who's living with it, who's like working their job and like doing like traveling, enjoying food genuinely, like not feeling overly restricted, like feeling like they're living a full, balanced, healthy, well-rounded life. Like that is huge. And I think it's, a relief to me. Like I go to, you know, community events all the time and I love meeting other people and seeing all the cool things they're doing. And it's definitely important. Community is huge. Having someone else to like see how they're doing with it. A lot of people, it is like, especially if they're just pre-diabetes or, you know, this is so new for them. It's like their biggest fear. There's a lot of fear there. So just showing them like, hey, look, I literally don't produce insulin. Like, and I'm fine. So like, if you end up, you know, here or there or like wherever, like, don't think this is like the end for
of your life. Yeah. It's a new beginning.
Absolutely.
And I could imagine like initially getting that diagnosis and not knowing anyone with type 1 diabetes, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? So how was that transition for you? Just like, okay, now you find out that you have to start taking insulin. And, you know, I think for someone who doesn't have to live with that at all, like, and then to just get that news out of nowhere, like it could be very scary, especially a medication like insulin, where it's like now you have to start doing injections. Like for people that have fear of needles, like, you know, it could just be a lot. And just like really reprogramming how you think about food and how you go about food all at once. So how was that initially like for you? Like just getting into a flow of things?
I took it really hard. Like it was not, I wish I could be more like my dad who like never gets thrown off. Like he's the chillest person on planet Earth. Like I was not. I took it really, really hard. It was like extremely devastating for me. And it just was not computing. Like I feel like the acceptance level of it like did not come for honestly years. Like it was really challenging. And I was in school. I was actually in finals.
Oh my gosh.
So I wasn't like a casual diagnosis, like, oh, like your A1C. No, I was in DKA. I
Oh
was
my
in
God.
the emergency room. So it was like very traumatic, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like I talked to so many patients, unfortunately, like you hear so much stuff when you're like I remember I went to the school doctor because I knew something was wrong. I was losing weight. I was super thirsty. My eyesight got worse. I've always had great eyesight. All of a sudden, can't really see the board. I'm sensitive to light. I'm having cramps in my muscles. I lost so much weight. Like I lost weight and I wasn't doing anything different. Like there was no reason to lose weight.
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong. Like I could barely stay awake throughout the days. I couldn't focus. And I was like, I'm about to go into finals. I need to get to the bottom of this. I went to my school doctor. I was like, can you test my thyroid? See if I'm anemic. Can you test my blood sugar? I asked him to test my blood sugar because I was actually learning about diabetes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, but he kind of made me feel like a hypochondriac. Like I was
Oh my
like,
God.
and it was just, there was that. And then it went from that to him literally like pulling me out of my class, telling me that I could like go into a coma and that I must be diabetic and I need someone else to drive me to the emergency room.
Wow.
And then I get to the emergency room. They're like telling me, every nurse is telling me something different. You're too skinny to have type 2. You must be a type 1. Oh, you're too old to have type 1. You must be a type 2. And I
Oh my
really felt like
God.
people also said a lot of like really unfortunate comments that like really traumatized me, like things that like random things. You can never walk barefoot again. You can never eat white rice. Like, so I was just like literally in the most like, I was like blacking out. Like I couldn't even process any of this information. And
Yeah.
it was not easy. Like I feel like I had a really like boom, it hit me like a brick. And then I had to go straight into the rest of my finals that I didn't miss, make up the finals that I did miss. So like my whole onset and the way it came about, also working as a dietitian, like I was just like not expecting diabetes. Like,
Yeah.
like I had no
Right.
family history really. It was just the biggest shock of my life. And even though I didn't necessarily think of myself as someone who had a fear of needles, like no one thinks about what it's like to literally stab yourself with a needle. Like normally you're just getting like a shot,
Yeah.
someone else is doing it. Like it is so much to take in. It is so much to cope with even, or just to like process the diagnosis, especially when you're hearing all this different stuff. A lot of people lose trust because they're like hearing different things.
Yeah.
My physiology professor, when I came out of the hospital, I showed him my discharge papers. He's like, oh, you're too old to have type 1. My physiology professor.
God.
So I was really like, it would have been hard enough if it was just more straightforward, or like I wasn't admitted to the hospital or I wasn't in finals, but the combination of all the factors, like I took it extremely hard. And then I went way too restrictive. I had like a lot of anxiety. Food became a sore point for me, which was really heartbreaking because that's why I became a dietitian. Because I love food. But it's been a long journey. I'm in a much better place now.
Oh my gosh. Ugh, I can't even imagine, especially just like everyone telling you different things.
Yeah.
People don't understand how their one little like not informed comment can linger with someone for the rest of their life. And so I'm glad that you ended up, in a better place. And now that you are in a better place, like what are some of those lessons for your younger self? Like if you could go back and talk to your newly diagnosed self, what would you say? What lessons or mindsets do you wish that you had known earlier on?
The biggest one that comes to mind is like not going so extreme. I remember like the drama. Like I was like, I can never. I think also being in school, becoming a dietitian, I was learning about all these things, not in a way that you would tell someone who's newly diagnosed. Like it was like no, gentleness to it. It was like, this is what the blood sugar ranges are. This is like what you need to be, so many numbers, so many facts. Like, so I genuinely was trying to like achieve non-diabetic numbers 24/7.
Oh my God.
So terribly, like, especially like when you're in the honeymoon and you're new to everything. And like, I wasn't even using a continuous glucose monitor at first. Like it was just pure chaos. So like, I would tell myself, because I did develop such a horrible relationship with food at that time. Like I was like, I literally wanted to cry every time I had to eat. I was like, here we go again. And like, I remember, even my dad, like love him so much. He's such a great dad. And like, there was I think a lot of families experience this. They're trying to support their loved ones, but then like, even they can be like, my dad's an engineer. He was like, just keep a log of everything you're eating and how much insulin you took. And then you'll be like, great. And I'm like, but it's not working. Like there's factors, like it's not like that. And it was maddening. And then he would even say things like, is it worth it to eat that watermelon? Like,
Oh
like, and I
no.
was just like developing like a complex where I was like
Yeah.
trying to avoid carbs. I remember eating like a chicken breast for lunch. Like I was really,
Mm.
this is before I became a dietitian. Okay. I've learned a lot, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I wish I could go back and be like, you don't need to do all that. Like enjoy the fruit. Like it's really not about like cutting out carbs or like trying to eliminate it or like even trying to, it's unrealistic to think you're going to have non-diabetic numbers all the time. As a type 1, it's like, you're
Yeah.
going to drive yourself crazy. And yeah, I was like going into the like diabetic aisle at the shopping center and like seeing the little Atkins like peanut butter cup and like crying, I'll never have a real Reese's peanut butter cup again.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
that was so unnecessary. I wish I could just save myself from like all of that because, you know, I had to do a lot of like healing and realize that like I didn't need to do that. And like the perfectionist in me, I had to really like dial it back and learn that it really isn't like 0 or 100. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need non-diabetic numbers. Like it's not about avoiding carbs. It's about having them with the right combination or in the right order, in the right amounts, like balance. Like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
anything crazy, extreme, or restrictive. That's like the biggest thing I wish I could go back and like save myself from feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
What helped you get there? Was it just like experimenting and seeing like, okay, I'm introducing, these carbohydrates, I'm balancing them out, I'm adjusting my meds, I'm seeing results. Was it like a trial and error or was it like just learning more about nutrition? Like what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, definitely both. Like becoming more educated and informed of like how important carbs are for us and that like avoiding them entirely is not a good idea. Like
Yeah.
the education piece
Mhm.
definitely, but also yeah, like my numbers weren't even good. When I was doing all that, like my
Yeah.
numbers were not even paying off. So I was like, why am I doing this? Like
Yeah.
it was like trial and error because I'm like, it's not helping for me to be this overly restrictive and stressed out and like fearing food like this. Like I'm not even getting like great outcomes. So what is
Mhm.
all of this for? And then I did realize, yeah, like when I just have balanced meals and have like, carbs paired with things like protein, fat, and fiber, like it just goes so much better instead of like having like a super sugary breakfast on an empty stomach. Like it doesn't have to be one thing or
Mm.
the other. Like
Yeah.
it's about finding the good balance and learning those strategies, which honestly did just come with like a lot of time and
Yeah.
like realizing and learning. But I try to like save my clients as much time by like
Yes.
telling them all the
Mhm.
lessons, like spoon feeding, like this is like seriously, like try to skip this horrible phase where you're like being
Yeah.
overly restrictive or like perfectionist.
Mhm.
I want you to get there faster than I did.
Yes. What are like 3 tips you swear by? I think I know one of them. But that for you and maybe what you're also seeing trends in clients like make a huge difference. And it can be like specific breakfasts that you recommend or things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's so many, but honestly, like breakfast is huge. I remember like also people have varying degrees of like dawn phenomena. So breakfast can be a huge sore point for people where like they wake up, they step out of bed.
Can you explain what that is if someone doesn't know?
Yes. So dawn phenomena is this really annoying thing that can happen where you wake up and you don't even eat anything yet. You just step out of bed and you rise up and your body physiologically is like, you have an increase in a hormonal shift, right? Because you go from like resting and sleeping and you have a little bit of elevated cortisol, adrenaline, like all these physiological responses that normally we're blissfully unaware of. But when you're like wearing a continuous glucose monitor or tracking or like needing to dose insulin, you see sometimes that it just jumps up and you're like, I didn't even eat yet. Like, why is this happening to me? Like all I did is like breathe and open my eyes. Like, and
Yeah.
it's really frustrating. But yeah, there is you're not crazy. Like it is a thing. And it's weird because it doesn't always happen. Like I used to get it a lot more in college. I don't know if I was just more stressed out or like the age that I was versus now, but like I don't experience as much dawn phenomena now. So it's weird. It's not straightforward. Nothing about this condition is like straightforward,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unfortunately. But it can be a really sore point when you're battling something like dawn phenomena. Plus, if you think about like the classic American breakfast, it's a lot of carbs, right? It's like pancakes and syrup or waffle with like powdered sugar and fruit, or it's like a really high sugar cereal, or like
Yeah.
oatmeal or
Muffin.
things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, muffins, pastries, sugary beverages. That's a huge one, and like especially with coffee, which has caffeine can also just like increase those same hormones that give you Down phenomena. So like, it can be a real sore point. So breakfast is a huge one. I have benefited so tremendously, not only with my blood sugar, but like with my concentration and energy levels and just like feeling fuller, longer, and like being more stable in general, and my blood sugars, eating more of like a savory breakfast. And that doesn't mean you can't have anything sweet. A lot of the time I like the best of both worlds. So I'll do like, maybe like a veggie scramble with like some fruit, or like avocado toast. And then you can piece things together. But I really, really have noticed a huge benefit personally for doing more savory breakfast, like having some fiber, some like healthy fats like avocados is a big go-to for me, but it can look like a lot of things. I even will meal prep like breakfast burritos, but just having like not just a super carb centric, only carb breakfast, like put some protein, fat, fiber along with it. That will change the whole course of your day and prevent you from like starting it off on a roller coaster, you know? That is huge. Some other tips are going to be pre-bolusing if you're type 1. Like people don't realize, I actually have my little medication card right here, and it literally talks about like the onset of different brands of insulin and how long it takes just for them to start being active. People think like, okay, I took my shot, it's at work. It takes time. So matching that timing, and you can always check if you want like the manufacturer like website to see like when they recommend taking your insulin, even the very ultra rapid acting insulins versus like rapid acting, Humalog, Novolog, Fiasp, Lyumjev, like all of them need a pre-bolus though. You want to like not take it after the fact ideally, because it will be like kind of more chasing your blood sugar down rather than preventing it from spiking in the first place. Yeah. So even just like any notching that higher than what you're doing, if you're someone who struggles with that, that is huge, because it's a lot harder. Once you're already high, you get a level of insulin resistance going, and like it's like sometimes it's stubborn, and then like you're taking more and more insulin, and then all of a sudden whoosh, it's like you're dropping, and then you're eating sugar, and it's so much easier if you just kind of nip that in the bud and take pre-bolusing. Pre-bolusing is huge. And then another one that I personally try to do, I'm not always perfect at it, and every day is a little different, but I try to eat dinner like not super late, like just not like right before I'm going to bed, because it is nice, like just the little movements, cleaning your house, doing dishes, like walking around your room, like picking things up. It's crazy how much that's like helpful for your cells to become more insulin sensitive and like just kind of like stabilize your blood sugars before you go to bed, and you're awake. So you're like seeing, oh, I need a little correction because I'm going really high from what I ate. You just kind of have more time to like get things where you want them. Because a lot of trends I see, with myself in the past or with like clients, overnight highs. That's a huge like common pattern that you'll see. And that's a lot of hours of your life. And you're like unaware of it a lot of the time. You're just sitting and you're not moving. So you're not, getting the sugar down as easily, even when you're taking insulin. So I'm not having them like crazy, crazy early, but like, I'm just not having them like right before I go, which I used to do. And a lot of people fall into that habit. So earlier dinner, that is like, if there's any meal like that you want to focus on not having it super carb centric too, is also like dinner for that reason. If you struggle with overnight highs, look at what you're having for dinner. See if you are having like a balanced meal, if it's like really carb focused, and it's okay to have rice, pasta, like all those things for dinner. I still eat those things for dinner. I just make sure to have, some veggies and protein with it too.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are amazing tips. Yeah.
Yeah, those are all great.
Like which ones do I choose? But
those are really good. I know you do the savory breakfast. So I was like hoping you said that, but those are the other ones are good too.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a good flow going. Community is really important. It sounds like on the food front, you have a good routine. You know what works for you. I'm wondering, like, just with coping, because I'm sure it's like you still have your challenging days, having to navigate all of these different things, healthcare, medication, stress. So, like, what are some other things in your toolkit that help you care for yourself on days that feel a little harder?
Yeah. And this comes up a lot with my client sessions. And this is where like my personal experience really like shines through, I feel like, because it is so underrated how I think like I was at an event actually this weekend for type 1 diabetes. And we were talking that one of the questions that was like up for discussion is like, how do you think like mental health plays into type 1 diabetes? And I was literally thinking like, it is the front and center. genuinely. Like, that is the hardest part, I think, arguably. You feel like you're dealing with stuff all the time and you look fine. Like, everyone's like, no one ever thinks that I'm dealing with the stuff I'm dealing. Like, just looking at me, you would never know that like I'm calculating things all the time. And I'm like, I have to remember to bring so much stuff with me or else it's like literally going to ruin my day. If I don't bring my insulin, I have to like go home. Like, it's like a lot of like, people will just be like, oh, I left my phone at home or like it died. I'm like, I watch my blood sugar on there and I have to keep it alive and keep it with me. And like, there's just so much that you deal with. And the maddening thing is like, no one knows, like it's an invisible disease. So it's just like, you still have to go to work just like everyone else. You start at the same time. You have just as much work as everyone else, but you're also doing the full-time job of managing a chronic illness. And you have to make all these millions of phone calls and deal with prior auths and like healthcare system. And that part is also arguably the hardest part of managing a condition. So it really does feel like my friend Laura was literally saying this at her event. You're Just My Type is her organization. She was like, managing type 1 diabetes feels like the definition of insanity, which is like you're doing the same thing over and over and getting different results, like, and expecting different results, but like we actually do get different results. So it's a lot mentally, and having spaces where you're not like the only one dealing with that is so relieving. First of all, you instantly connect with people on such a different level. Like, even when you see them out on the street and you see their CGM, you're like, oh, they get it. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, like, wait, you know, you could live with your husband or your parents or your friends or whatever, and like, they don't get it. And they're with you day in and day out. They don't get it like someone who's living with it. Like, so I think just connecting with even one person is like so groundbreaking. I always like, when I'm working with clients, if they're newly diagnosed, I'm like, let's see what's in your area. Like, let's see, there's, you know, it's National Diabetes Month next month. Like, there's probably the Breakthrough T1D walk happening. Let's see like which one's closest to you, or like if there's any Facebook groups, or I'll tell them like my story. Like, I literally hunted down someone to like be my friend and it changed my life, you know, and I think it's nice just like us being able to relate, but I'm like, I want you to like meet someone and just have even one friend. So, or if you don't have a lot going on in your area, or if you just like want something digitally, there's so many options now too. Like, there's so many amazing groups online and people sharing their real raw experiences, or just like, it's really validating to see other people, you know, venting about like this and that, or just like, hey, like, does anyone know like any tips or recommendations for this? Like, there's so much happening with community for not just type 1, but diabetes in general. There's so many amazing organizations. So I'm always trying to like definitely emphasize that. I think that's a huge part of like being a good practitioner, is just like helping them have the tools for success beyond just what you're telling them. Like, not just the like information, the educational information, but like resources and community is huge.
Yes, I love that. Speaking of resources, because it sounds like community is probably one of the biggest, but there's also a lot more diabetes tech coming into play. There's different types of insulin. I know you've tried different types of insulin and tech tools over the years. You are our diabetes tech expert at Diabetes Digital. What have been some of your biggest aha moments when it comes to technology or timing that have made managing your type 1 diabetes easier?
Yeah, definitely. So I had mentioned when I first got diagnosed, I wasn't immediately on a continuous glucose monitor. It was very overwhelming. They did recommend it right away, but I was a little bit resistant, you know, understandably. There's so much already happening. And I definitely like think that's super valid. Like, people wanting to like feeling overwhelmed. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. However, in retrospect, it has made my life so much easier, and I cannot imagine not having a continuous glucose monitor. I'm talking type 1 specifically. I think it's like, I could not recommend it more. Like, it is extremely, extremely, extremely beneficial. When you have prediabetes or type 2, it can also be like an amazing tool. But speaking to my type 1s, like, the sooner you can get on board with a continuous glucose monitor, like, it really does help, because you are having to play the role of a pancreas. You're having to constantly make adjustments and tweaks. And finger poking is, you know, it's great to have that option. And you still want to have that option even with a continuous glucose monitor. It's a great backup. It's a great source of like, you know, double checking and calibrating and things, but like the continuous glucose monitor is a game changer, and you can see the trend arrow, where you're heading, how fast you're heading there. Like you can learn so much more. So just continuous glucose monitors as a tool is an amazing, amazing tool to have. Highly recommend it. And then also like when you do have one, really looking at your settings, like looking at where's your high alert, especially if you were like, given like a sliding scale or a correction factor, like so that you can be in the know and like wake up if you're asleep, like to when you're having these highs and correct and handle it. It's going to be really important to set your alarms at a nice point where it's not going to be like going off like crazy when you don't necessarily need it to, like overwhelming you and getting alarm fatigue, but also not like so high or like turned off that you're like so unaware and not, it's going to be harder if your blood sugar is like skyrocketing and then you're trying to manage it like way after the fact. So finding that like point with where you want to have your alarms, and then repeat alerts is another really big one. Like let's say you're high and you're going to go to sleep. You took your insulin, you correct, you go to sleep. If you're staying high all night, you kind of want that alarm to go off again in like an amount of time so that you can like take a little more insulin if needed. So just your alarm settings can be like a huge game changer for sure. So I always kind of go through those and like check in with how they're doing and where they're set at. And a lot of times people don't even like know where they're set at. They just kind of went with like how it came as a standard, or they turned it off one time when they got like really frustrated and they just like never remembered to turn it back on. So just that is like a really like kind of passive thing that like is going to trickle into your everyday life and really impact your management too.
1000%. Yeah, we've both used CGMs, and we don't even have diabetes. And it's just so much good information to have. Like for someone that has diabetes, incredibly useful. But also like if you've had any issues with insulin resistance in the past, it's like, it's kind of a good experiment just to see like what works better for your body. So 100% agree with that. For our listeners who have really enjoyed this episode and are like, okay, I want to work with Tiana. I feel like what she is saying is speaking to me. Can you tell us about how listeners can connect with you, how they can work with you if they're interested?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Diabetes Digital is on so many platforms. So like if you're not already following them on Instagram, I have my Instagram, mine is live.fulfilled with an extra L, like full, and then Diabetes Digital, follow their page. We're always posting things and like good tips and recipes and things like that. To work with me, you can go to diabetesdigital.co/book. You can choose me as your dietitian. You could always just like reach out to us at our phone number and like we can help walk you through. If you have any other questions or anything like that, definitely let us know. But I'm really looking forward to connecting with you all. I love this job so, so much. And thank you so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming. This was awesome. Also, really quick, the site to book if you have never taken the quiz is diabetesdigital.co/quiz. So we will go there. And actually, Tiana is our patient intake specialist. So if you do fill out our form, there's a high likelihood that you're going to hear from her anyways, even if you, let's say, are not working with her, because she will probably call you just to check in, make sure the process is going smooth for you to like get you all set up. So yeah, we love having you. And thank you so much. This is like really good insight. And I appreciate you coming on to share your story, because I know it's vulnerable to share, but I'm sure so many people will be helped by hearing this.
I really hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiana.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. If you're interested in nutrition counseling with one of our expert dietitians to help improve your prediabetes or diabetes, visit us at diabetesdigital.co.
Also, if you found our conversation helpful, do us a favor and rate and review this podcast on iTunes, plus share with someone who might find this helpful. You can also connect with us on Instagram at diabetesdigital.co.
And tune in every Wednesday for practical, inclusive, and culturally humble diabetes insights. We'll catch you later. Bye.